So, if you live under a rock or you were educated in the US so you don't know how to type, you might have not heard about Nintendo's big Switch 2 event yesterday. We got an extensive look at the new console and its many features, as well as upcoming titles for the system. It was all looking really good. The new games seemed great. We got a couple of crazy surprises like a FromSoft Nintendo Switch exclusive, which nobody could have seen coming, and a brand new 3D DK game after more than 20 years since the last one on N64. I was super excited when I was watching. I've always been a huge Nintendo fan, and I maintain that when it comes to the games themselves, nobody in this industry has an output with as much consistency and quality as Nintendo. So me personally, I was hyped. I was very, very hyped. But oh my dear viewer, the hype would not last. You see, something that I and many others thought was strange was that the pricing for games or the console were not discussed at all during the event. Rather unusual for a console that's releasing in a little over 2 months. It seemed like Nintendo wanted as little eyes as possible on the pricing. And well, I think now we know why. On what was supposed to be a fun and exciting day of looking at new tech and new games, as well as older games coming to the console, we went on to mark the date on which AAA studios finally said, fuck the consumer, we are charging $80 for games now. And I can't express strongly enough how disappointed I am by this. Now, it's not like I see this industry as some sort of paragon of ethics. Recent years have certainly proven that studios and publishers are as greedy and evil as the villains in the games that they sell to you. Whether it's massive layoffs due to spending insane amounts of cash on projects that were dead on arrival, or just not needing devs anymore like with Marvel Rivals. And we recently heard about how at one point, Sony had more than 10 live service games being developed concurrently, most of which are now cancelled, meaning that for most of those devs, they will have no presence to speak of in this game generation. So trust me, this isn't my rose-tinted glasses were suddenly broken to reveal some awful truth to me. But yet, this one, it still hurts. Now, before I tell you why this sucks, let's address some of the reasons that Nintendo diehards might give to justify Daddy Mario committing daylight robbery. Yes, it is true that the stupid president of the stupid United States is in part cause of the rising costs of international goods. His tariffs and general US first nationalistic policy is bound to alter all markets that contain international shipping. It is also true that inflation has gotten significantly worse in the past few years, and most things are getting more expensive, not just games. It is also true that adjusting for inflation means that generally speaking, games are cheaper today than they were back in the day. In 2003, when the standard $60 price tag was set for AAA games, $60 was worth about what $90 is now. Also, game budgets have ballooned significantly in the past 20 years. Games like Spider-Man 2 for the PS5 cost about $315 million to produce. Half-Life 2 only cost about $40 million. Also, Nintendo has virtually no games with in-game spending. In a world where the live service model gains more and more of a foothold every day, Nintendo might have to charge more for its titles in order to compete. If I were to present this information to the layman, he would probably say something along the lines of, Daddy Marcy, I get it now. Due to external factors like geopolitics as well as the rising cost of producing games, it makes sense that companies are starting to charge more to cover those expenses. Thank you for teaching me economics, Poppy. To which I would say, shut the fuck up, I'm not done talking. You see, what none of these figures take into account is the growth of the games industry since 2003. Global revenue for that year is estimated to be about $21 billion. Just in 2021, the global revenue was, drumroll please, $211 billion. $211 billion. And last year was about $180 billion. This is like 1,000% increase in revenue for the industry. And while yes, last year was lower, the general trend is still massive growth as games become more mainstream and gain a bigger foothold within pop culture. From 2017 to 2021, global revenue increased by more than $70 billion in just 4 years. Consumer spending has also increased by about 100% in the past decade, with 2014 consumer spending adding up to about $28 billion compared to $58 billion last year. And I don't think I need to tell you that since 2003, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft have only gotten bigger and more profitable. The rate of inflation and rising costs is nothing compared to the rate of growth that we have seen in this industry and for these companies. It is just a fact that these companies have been making more money in the past few years than they ever have before. The little Switch that could outsold both of its competitors in the last generation, and they did it without lowering their prices a single time. To this day, the Switch and its first-party titles cost the same as they did when they came out. To put it in simple terms, Nintendo is not lacking for the big bucks. So, knowing all this, why is it that Nintendo is charging $80 for digital and $90 for physical? Well, it's because they can, and because you will still pay for it. $70 games I sort of got. Games have only gotten better and more complex and cost more and take more time. So you know what? $70, it still seems like too much, but a part of me understands, particularly because it's been 20 years, or it had been since the last increase. But for only like 2 years after our last price increase, for Nintendo of all people to come out and make the first $90 AAA game feels like a joke. Consumers aren't stupid. If it was really a matter of covering costs, then the price for all games would have gone up and continued to go up long before now. Nintendo is really just seeing how much more it can squeeze out of the consumer without the consumer saying anything. They know Mario Kart moves systems, they know that those games sell insanely well, and they just want to see the look on your face when you get down on your knees and take the money out of your bra to put it in Mario's mouth. Say what you will about Nintendo, and frankly, there's a lot that you could say, but it has been, for the past 20 years, the affordable option when compared to the competition. But it seems like that doesn't really matter to them anymore. And it just sucks to see. It's not like wages have been keeping up with the rising cost of everything. And Nintendo's image as a family-friendly and approachable means of gaming is gonna make it so that when Mario Kart World sells like hotcakes, and it will, unfortunately, other companies in the space are gonna realize that they can do it too. And we might just have to go back to the old days when gaming was a lot more expensive and was only available to affluent people. Rather than these companies not wasting millions of dollars in projects that are bound to fail, they now know, because of Nintendo, that they can just ask you for more money to cover their expenses. And Nintendo and us are letting them know that it's okay. There are many families who own a Switch who probably want to play the next console, but won't because they just can't afford it. It's true that Nintendo is the one at fault here, but frankly, we as consumers have ceded too much fucking ground to these people. And don't be fooled. Once Mario Kart does insanely well, then Nintendo's other first-party offerings are also gonna start costing a hell of a lot more. We already know that some Switch 2 editions of games, these, by the way, are just games for the old hardware that have been dolled up for the new system, are also gonna cost about $80. With about 30,000 devs losing their jobs in the past few years, and studios and publishers putting more and more stock into live service slop, the future of the humanitarian side of this industry is looking grimmer and grimmer by the day. And as someone who loves games, it's just saddening to see yet another step taken into this future by Nintendo of all people. Now, I've said that my opinion is that Nintendo is charging $80 for Mario Kart World simply because they know that they can, and they know that you, the consumer, will still pay for it because it's Mario Kart. And I think that this sucks and that we should absolutely condemn them for it. And we should absolutely let them know how we feel about that decision. But I think it would be foolhardy to ignore the larger systemic issue at play here, that being shareholders within these massive public corporations. You see, shareholders care about nothing but exponential profit each year. It doesn't matter if they're making billions of dollars every year, they only want Nintendo to make more money than it did last year. And if they don't, that's considered a failure. This puts a lot of pressure on the industry to charge more and more. Something that's also a factor here is that companies know that consumers expect the cost of goods to go up during times of high inflation. And they use this to take advantage of you by raising prices more than they actually should. They could be covering their costs with a $5 increase, but they choose to do it with a $20 increase because they know that you're expecting it to be more expensive. Now, I know that this has been a pretty negative video so far, but it's not all bad. I mean, besides this pricing issue and other things going on in the industry like the layoffs and studio shutdowns and live service slop taking over every inch of our lives, we still have devs who are putting all of themselves into fantastic games. Despite how much it costs, I'm sure Mario Kart World is great because Nintendo devs and Nintendo artists are extremely talented. So there are still things to hold on to here. Now, while I'm sure that the Switch will sell very, very well in its first couple years due to hobbyists and the excitement the new console brings, I'd be interested to see if the larger casual market that kept the Switch alive for so long is gonna go for these prices. I hope not, but you never know. But nothing gets fixed by itself. If this is something that we truly care about, then let's vote with our dollar. Let's comment on Nintendo stuff so that they know how we feel. We have to let them know that we will not put up with them squeezing us like this. We should also ask our lawmakers and politicians to make it so that billion-dollar corporations like Nintendo have to be much more transparent with their earnings and their spending so that we as consumers can make more informed decisions. And most importantly, we should show the rest of the industry that we are not going to stand by and let these millionaires do whatever they want because they think that they can do anything to you and you're still gonna buy from them. Show them that no, the buck stops here. We refuse to play their games. No pun intended. Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony will continue doing whatever they want only as long as we let them. So let's get together and show them what we're made of. This is Marcy, signing out. Hi.